This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Monday Mashup. I am not Shay Norling. I am Kevin McCann. Shay is in Las Vegas enjoying life much, much more than the rest of us on this Monday, the 25th of March. We've got a great show for you today. Well, I've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk some NBA as always. I'm going to hit the power rankings. I'm going to give you the case for why James Harden has circled all the way back around in my head to becoming MVP again for the second straight year. I'm even going to recap college basketball for you, kind of, like a little bit. We're going to do a twist, but we'll get into that. Before we do that, I want to talk to you guys about this week's sponsor, MyBookie. It's the first weekend of the NCAA tournament, and that's one of the greatest betting events of the year. Whether you like filling out a bracket, picking a national champion, predicting first-round upsets, prop bets, whatever it is, all the above, MyBookie is the perfect place for your March Madness fun. They have something for everyone, even the multiple bracket guy. Try not to be a multiple bracket guy, but if you are, you are. MyBookie's been in business for years, and the best part is they pay out fast when you win. I'm serious, guys. I've been using MyBookie for a while. I'm talking 48 hours cash in your bank account. Visit mybookie.ag and deposit with promo code DSP for a 50% sign-up bonus. That's promo code DSP. With MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid. mybookie.ag, promo code DSP for a 50% sign-up bonus. Do it now. Okay, let's get right into it. We had a lot of fun this weekend. Obviously, everybody loves sitting on their butts and just watching college basketball all Thursday and Friday and then realizing that it still goes on even on Saturday, Sunday. You don't have to go anywhere. It's a pretty great week for everyone involved. I think the game of the weekend, everyone would agree, was Duke and UCF. Zion going for 30-plus. Aubrey Dawkins going for 30-plus. By the way, Johnny Dawkins aged like 10 years in the last 5 from when he was on the sideline with Stanford. He did not look like that. Whoa. But either way, huge win for Duke. Doing it without shooting threes. You saw UCF really just kind of daring most of them to take threes down the stretch. Cam Reddish has kind of heard it from a lot of people this year, and he really stepped up down the stretch, hit some big shots. So give him a lot of credit for that one. Zion obviously carried them as he has been all year. They'll go as he goes. It's interesting to see him go up against a 7'6" guy. Taco Fall is a massive person, and that's really all I have to say about Taco Fall. Michigan State, we are in Michigan. I'll hit on them as well. Obviously, they played so-so in that first game. Bradley gave them a run for their money. The talk of the weekend is, well, I'll get into it later with Izzo. I really want to hit on that, but overall, good weekend for them. Obviously outplayed their second-round opponent easily, a team that they had beat up earlier in the year. Not that I saw, but I heard good things. And it was awesome to see Rick Pitino sitting behind that bench while they beat Louisville. That was just sick for everyone involved. Gonzaga rolled. Florida State, I think, is probably going to be the end of them. I really like this Culver kid from Texas Tech, but I don't think they have enough to beat Michigan. Oregon is still wrapping up right now, so I don't know what they have against Virginia. I haven't seen either of those teams play all year. I'm going to be honest with you. Tennessee has not impressed me at all, and I'm always pulling for the Big Ten, so I'm going to take Purdue in that one. We're just flying through these at this point. North Carolina and Auburn, I don't think Auburn's got a chance. This is about the time in the year when Bruce Pearl decides to implode. Houston and Kentucky, I mean, has there ever been a battle of bigger sleazeball head coaches? There probably has, but this is a pretty good one. Calvin Sampson and John Calipari, I mean, those two just deserve each other. What a great matchup. Moving on, let's get into the actual fun basketball, the NBA. Kind of an overlooked week usually with all of what March Madness is going on, but there was some seriously amazing moments. The NBA is where amazing happens. Jeremy Lamb tonight, Sunday night, made what I can only describe as the most ridiculous buzzer beater I've seen in a regular season game in my entire life. Completely lost the ball off the inbounds. Great play by Spicy P. Pascal Siakam deflected the pass. Looked like the game was over. Turned around and launched up a 50-footer, and it banks and goes in, and he acts like he meant to do it. Which, I mean, you have to act like you meant to do it in that situation. So good for him. You're still not going to get the 8 seed. Enjoy golf. I want to get into the power rankings first. We're going to do it a little bit out of order. It's going to be a shorter show this week anyways because it's just me. So I'm going to start with my honorable mention teams, and I'm going to kind of hit a lot on each one. And the first one is the Spurs. And the San Antonio Spurs, for me, I mean, this is a team that at the beginning of the year, nobody really expected anything of. Even before that, you want to go back, nobody really after the trade for Kawhi, or the trade for DeRozan, I guess, the trade that sent Kawhi to Toronto, everybody just kind of penciled them in for maybe they'll win 40, maybe they'll get that 8 seed. I mean, they're doing, and then they lost DeJounte Murray, and on top of it all, like, they just don't look like they're going to be able to put anything together, and what happens? Greg Popovich happens. They won 9 in a row to start March. They didn't lose a game in March till March the 20th, and they won 10 out of 12 after they beat Boston. A really good win tonight. Boston's biggest home loss of the season. And if the San Antonio Spurs, with 8 games remaining, win 7 of them, and they've got one game in those last 8 against a plus 500 team, it's against Denver. If they win 7, the San Antonio Spurs will be a 50-win team again. And precisely no one predicted that after Murray went down, and barely anyone predicted it before, certainly not me. This whole year, the shooting has been outstanding for them. They're still second in the NBA in field goal percentage per 100 possessions. LaMarcus Aldridge tonight had 48 on 12, just unbelievable shooting again. He had a 50-point game, his first of his career earlier this year, and honestly, he may steal that last All-NBA forward spot from Blake, and it's just going to ruin my day when he does, but he seriously might do it. They are in a prime playoff spot with a backcourt consisting of Derek White and Bryn Forbes, and as much as I love Bryn Forbes, he is way better cast coming off the bench in the NBA, and everyone would agree with that if you've ever watched him play. Great player, probably a great locker room guy, but a starting 2-guard on a playoff team, that doesn't make any sense. Are you kidding? That doesn't make any sense, especially if Derek White's the point guard. How is anyone going to sell that to me at the beginning of the year? There's no sale for that, and yet here they sit while LeBron James looks on from the outside. The next team I want to hit on is the Jazz. They're also in my honorable mention this week. They're another team that they just kind of all year long have been struggling to find footing. Same about this time last year. They started to pick, actually before this, because we're only about 10 games left. So before this, right around the end of the All-Star break last year, they started to pick it up. They started to figure it out. They've done it again. They had a putrid loss in Atlanta where they blew a fourth-quarter lead this week on an ice tray, which is his new nickname, which honestly over this past week has kind of been fitting. Go ahead and won. It was a bucket NFL. It was a good play. They lost the game. They should have never lost. That game ended a 5-game win streak. And you would think, oh, well, that's a tough loss. Start a road trip. You just had a 5-game win streak, and then they beat Chicago by 1 million on Saturday night, and they're back on track. Their overall team defense is as good, if not better, than anyone in the West. They're statistically still the best in the NBA at protecting the rim, and that's even if one of Gobert or Favors is off the floor. They're still number 1 in the NBA in rim protection. And Favors, for all this, he got a non-guaranteed contract, and is he really this much money? There's any way they're going to pick up this team option? Yeah, I think they might, because he's still shooting over 63% on 2-point field goals. Like, the guy's done it on both ends. He only has to play a certain amount of minutes. He's giving you way better rim protection than you ever thought he was giving you. I think Derek Favors has played his way into the second year of that contract. I think they should probably pick it up, unless they can go and pick somebody up on the waiver or pick somebody up on the free agency this summer. I don't think you're going to get a better job at the 4 than Derek Favors, though he still may be the guy who holds you back from what you really want to be offensively when he's giving you this kind of production. I think you have to do it. They have 2 games left against plus 500 teams, and it's a back-to-back to end the season, Denver and the Clippers. And that could be huge for playoff positioning, so it'll be a good thing to keep an eye on. The Jazz could end up really anywhere from 4 to 8. A lot of teams could really end up anywhere from 4 to 8 right now, and depending on where they go, that's a possible conference finals team. I'm not betting on it. I wouldn't put smart money on it, but it's possible. Let's get into the power rank now. My top 5. You notice I did not have the Celtics on honorable mention. I know Shay will let me hear about that, but it has not been a good week in Boston. My number 5 team is the Portland Trailblazers. And I feel like we've been hitting on Portland a little bit over the last few weeks, maybe the last month or so, but I think Portland improved on the buyout market and at the deadline more than any other team in the West, and arguably any other team in the league, sans Philly. But they've won 6 of 7, and they lost C.J. McCollum 3 games ago to an injury, and all they've done is win 3 in a row. Dame is probably one of the 3 guards who is an absolute lock for one of the top 2 All-NBA teams. You could say Kyrie would be the 4th one, but there's some jostling back and forth. I'm still going to give it to Kyrie, but Dame is an absolute lock, one of those 3 guards with Steph, Harden, and Lillard. The versatility they bring off the bench keeps opposing defenses guessing every single time they make a substitution. You saw it in the Pistons game late the other night where they just kept throwing different looks at them, and Enes Kanter and Zach Collins, and all of a sudden bigs are shooting threes, and now all of a sudden they're posting bigs, and they're running all these wings around, and Dame is shooting from the logo, and you just have no idea what you're supposed to do and who's going to beat you on any given possession. And that amplifies even more when they bring CJ back, but they're still winning games even without him. they have an abundance also of what everyone always seems to want in the playoffs. You hear everybody talk about why the Celtics are the biggest threat to the Warriors. They have long, switchable wings. Portland has long, switchable wings, a lot of them. And I know, some of them are Evan Turner. Yeah, I get it. But a lot of them are very good, and they are very good shooters, too. Jake Layman, out of nowhere, might play himself into a pretty sizable contract. I've seen stranger things happen than Jake Layman gets $60 million in the summer. It seriously might happen. But it's all about the matchup for them in the playoffs. They could end up in a 4-5 series with OKC or Utah, and they could be early out again, and then you're going to have to take a really hard, long look at what this Portland team is and the roster construct, because you're going to lose guys. You got a lot of guys on one. You're probably not going to be able to retain Rodney Hood or Canner, the two guys you picked up. And it's going to be a tough sell to get any free agent to come to Portland to try to make it look a little better, because God knows that just doesn't happen. Let's move on. The fourth team in the power ranks this week is the Philadelphia 76ers. And they are another team who had an absolutely putrid loss in Atlanta, just like the Utah Jazz did, and also on another ice tray game winner floater at the buzzer. Before that game, they were 7-1 when the Fantastic Five, which is just the worst name for a starting lineup in history, starts together, and that's Simmons, Redick, Butler, Harris, and Embiid. They are now 7-2. They clearly did not show up in Atlanta. It was their first loss after 6 in a row, and over that 6-win stretch, they beat Indiana, Milwaukee, and Boston. And it's worth noting, without Hayward, Smart got thrown out, Baines got hurt. I get it. It's still a win. They hadn't won against Boston in a long time, so it's still a win. I like everything they can do with their lineups. They're shifting a little bit. We're seeing much more Simmons with Embiid and Redick with that two-man game. You're almost starting to see a little Redick-Simmons two-man game develop, which is interesting and also very, very spicy. We hardly ever saw that before, but Tobias and Jimmy, surrounded by the island of misfit toys that they have coming off the bench, is absolutely destroying second units, both offensively and defensively. When they lock in and you put Boban on the floor, there are no second chances, and those guys are pros at getting to the rim and pros at scoring all game long. I mean, Tobias and Jimmy are both walking buckets. So depending on how much they have to use their bench, they're the most dangerous team when they can keep at least 3 of those 5 on the floor together. And again, as far as playoff positioning goes, they got 2 games left against plus 500 teams, Brooklyn and Milwaukee. The Milwaukee one will be good, or we might see Milwaukee rest. We're not really sure what's going to happen. And that brings me to Milwaukee at number 3. Weird losses happened all last week. We talked about the 2 in Atlanta. Milwaukee had a weird one to Cleveland. So did the Pistons. But the Cleveland played tough all week. Like I said, they beat the Pistons. They lost to the Clippers by 2 on Friday. They've been playing tough. I like Colin Sexton. He's turning a corner. I'm not going to give too much time to the Cavs. That's about it. That was talking Cavs. So the loss to Philly on St. Patty's Day for Milwaukee and the way that their half-court offense looks when things slow down, we've talked about that before. Those are big concerns for me. Really, really big concerns. And losing Brogdon has really, really hurt their half-court even more. He is their best straight-line driver after Giannis, and he's their best off-the-catch driver, period, because you have to close him out. You don't have to close out on Giannis. You have to close out Malcolm Brogdon, and he puts the ball down and goes to the rim off a pump fake more effectively than Bledsoe, more effectively than Middleton, more effectively than anybody they got. Milwaukee has just been an embarrassment of riches, right? They just keep getting people, and now when they got Mirotic, when they got Gasol, you're like, man, they're loaded. Well, now they've got injuries. Now they're beat up a little bit. They got hurt in the wrong spot. It's just it's a little up in the air how they're going to be when pace slows down again. Are you going to play Giannis? Is he going to be able to take those threes? He was 0 for 3 from deep tonight. Is he going to be able to do that in the playoffs? Realistically, they don't need Brogdon back in the first round, but they 100% need him back in the later rounds, and maybe Mirotic too. It's going to be a really tough matchup for them in the second round because they're going to get one of those teams. I didn't put Indiana on here for a reason. Indiana's been playing great basketball. That's another team that could really hurt them. Bojan Bogdanovic, I'll tell you what, Bojan Bogdanovic at the beginning of the year, even I'll go back 2 years to when he was with Brooklyn. I thought, man, this guy's like a borderline player. When he got moved to Washington, maybe he's an NBA player. He might stick around a little while longer. He'll probably go back overseas. I mean, I am 180 flipped. I think he's a borderline all-star. You're not going to tell me that Chris Middleton is a world better than Bojan Bogdanovic. If Middleton can make an all-star team in the East, soaking Bojan Bogdanovic. That guy had 35 tonight on 13 for 16 shooting. He has been playing outstanding basketball. If you want a guy to look at for why Indiana has been able to keep it up, look no further. They've got a lot of great players. It's a team effort, no doubt. But this guy has elevated his game more than anybody else in Indiana has elevated their game. Give a ton of credit to Nate McMillan for that, too, for empowering him, because God knows we're never going to give credit to the black head coach who empowers the white guy. But when D'Antoni makes Harden an MVP, everybody jump on it. Either way, give Indiana that credit, but we're talking about Milwaukee here. Again, it's all going to come down to the matchups, how this whole thing seeds out. I don't think Toronto's going to come up and challenge him for the one, so I'm pretty sure they're locked into that. They could win 60 games. I think they got 55 now. Mike Budenholzer won 60 in 2015 with Atlanta. They got swept by LeBron. There is no LeBron in the East. We'll see what happens. I think everybody's just excited for the playoffs in the East. So let's get to the West teams. Number 2 in the power rankings this week, the first team out of the West, or the second team out of the West, we had Portland, is the Houston Rockets. They've won 5 of 6. The only loss is a fluke one-pointer in Memphis where Harden went for 57. And they look like they looked last year. Focused, they're starting to realize how it all fits together, adding these new pieces in Rivers and Fareed, and bringing Daniel House back from the G League. It's amazing that all these things matter so much, like Austin Rivers and Kenneth Fareed, and bringing Daniel House back from the G League matters. But it does to them. He's a good piece for them. So I really like how they look. They had Milwaukee on Tuesday night. I think that's a great measuring stick if guys don't rest, even without Brogdon and Mirotic. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. They may rest guys. They may not want to do it. We're at that point of the year where it's, you be careful when you're betting because you never know who's resting 5 minutes before the game starts when they do that. But we'll see. Either way, I think Houston's a great team. They have the second best offense in the NBA when both those guys are humming. Chris Paul, man, if those hamstrings hold up, they're the only team in the West that can beat Golden State. So let's get into Golden State. Number 1 in the power rankings yet again, as usual, as seemingly always. They had a blowout win against the Indiana team that I just praised for 2 minutes when all 5 of their starters played less than 30 minutes. That's just, how do you blow out a really good team and not even have to play a single starter over 30 minutes? Bogut fit back in simultaneously, gone like he never left. It's kind of funny to watch him go over and screed for Durant. Durant looking like, what are you doing? And Bogut's like, no, this is what we do here, right? Oh, no, you didn't have that guy when you were here before. Things are done a little bit differently, but other than that, I mean, he is fit in seamlessly, and they've lost Boogie for a couple and just haven't skipped a beat. They look great tonight against the Pistons, especially in the second half. Steph out. I get the 35-point loss against Dallas. How can they still be number 1? How you lose by that much to Dallas? Like, Steph didn't play. Look no further. When Steph doesn't play, they're an entirely different team. Golden State, without a doubt, number 1 in the power rankings. All right, like I said before, the first weekend of the NCAA tournament is one of the greatest betting events of the year. Whether you like filling out a bracket, picking a national champion, predicting first-round upsets, prop bets, all of the above, MyBookie is your perfect home for March Madness fun and NBA fun, all the fun. They have tons of different things to bet on. It's that point in the NBA, too, where you just want to get some action every night. The games are slower. You're just trying to have a little taste, have a little fun. Who knows? Let's focus on college basketball, too. Zion Williamson and his teammates. Can they win a title for Duke? Can Virginia get past the 16 seed? Make it more interesting. Bet on it. Can Kentucky get back to the Final Four? If you know the answers, even if you don't, MyBookie's the place to get in on the action. They have something for everyone. Everyone. MyBookie has been in business for years, and their goal is to give you the best customer service in the business. The best part is they pay out fast when you win, and I mean fast. I'm talking 48 hours, money in the bank. Bet with the best. Kick back and enjoy March Madness while you watch your picks cash. Deposit with MyBookie today with promo code DSP for a 50% sign-up bonus. That's promo code DSP, mybookie.ag, promo code DSP. With MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid. MyBookie.ag, promo code DSP. Sign up today, 50% bonus. Okay, we've done the power ranks. I've talked to you about a lot of things. One thing I want to hit on, and a lot of people may disagree with this, may agree with it. I'm going to give about 2 minutes to it, and then I think it should never be addressed again. What Tom Izzo did to Aaron Henry is not something Tom Izzo did to Aaron Henry. He did it for Aaron Henry. This is a 2 versus 15 game. Tom Izzo has lost a 2 versus 15 game before. He's got a freshman out there, and he's got to rely on him for big minutes because they are as beat up can get. And when you see a guy, a freshman, not sprint back on defense in a huge game, in a huge moment like that, You better react like that if you're a head coach. You better. I don't want to play for the head coach that doesn't react like that to me if I'm jogging back on defense in that moment. You better react like that, and you better have a senior and a junior captain who react exactly how those two guys reacted. Calm him down. Tell him we got him immediately. What Tom Izzo did is completely fine. We have been years, and also bringing it up now like he's never yelled at anybody before. We're 600 wins into this. Like, who cares? I thought Van Pelt summed it up absolutely perfectly. Don't worry about stuff that doesn't concern you. This doesn't concern you. The people that were mad on Twitter are just people that are mad on Twitter. Tom Izzo's a phenomenal basketball coach, and even on top of that, he's a phenomenal man. I mean, how many people have ever interacted with Tom Izzo and walked away thinking that guy's an asshole? I know I haven't. I have very, very few interactions with him going back my entire life, but every single time I thought, wow, that's a nice guy. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I don't want to give too much credence to it. We'll move on from it. Let's get back to the NBA where I feel much more comfortable and tell you why. James Harden is just spectacular. A lot of people want to watch James Harden and say, like, oh, this is ugly to watch, and oh, he can't be the MVP because this style of basketball can't win a championship, and this D'Antoni ball doesn't work. First of all, I bagged on Mike D'Antoni a couple of minutes ago. He should be given a lot of credit for how he's able to adapt his system to perfectly fit every single best player he ever has. And I know what you're saying, well, that didn't work out in New York. Well, for a minute, it did work out in New York. They didn't really want to give him that second minute. And also, maybe the player just wasn't the right fit. And I know you get, oh, well, in LA, it didn't work so well either. Yeah, powers that be. A lot of things didn't work in LA after Phil Jackson left. Crazy how that works. Either way, Mike D'Antoni has made the system this year at points 3 different systems, whether it's Harden running it by himself, whether it's Harden running it with a little help, or whether they're at full strength. And they've had to add guys and subtract guys on the fly, and they've been outstanding. But this isn't about Mike D'Antoni. This is about James Harden. James Harden has 27 40-plus point games this year. He led the league last year with 10. 10. He has 27 this year. 7 50-plus point games this season. 2 of them are 61, 2 of them are 58, and 2 of them are 57. Like, that's 4 other separate times that he was within 3 points of 60, and 2 times that he went over 60. He's tied for 4th in NBA history in 50-point games with 17. That's the active leader by 5. He's tied with Elgin Baylor. He had 32 straight 30-plus point games. It's the second longest streak in history. The longest one is by a guy named Wilt. The third longest one is also by a guy named Wilt. No one else. Wilt Chamberlain and James Harden, and no one else in the category. Not Jordan, not Bryant, not Bird, not Abdul-Jabbar. Harden and Chamberlain. That's it. So let's put him up head-to-head with Giannis. He has a player efficiency rating 0.2 points behind Giannis's 30.7. with a usage rate 8.5 points higher. That is a ridiculous disparity. It's gigantic. And it's also an insane player efficiency rating for someone with a usage rate that high. 30.5 for a player efficiency rating when he's blowing away the competition in usage rate? That's nuts. You want to think, oh, well, it's just ISO, all these buckets, no assists. He's top 10 in assists per game. He's 7th in the NBA in assists per game. He's a half an assist per game behind 3rd. 3rd. One more half assist per game and he's 3rd. His offensive win shares are an even 10. Giannis is 8.1. Defensively, that number leads toward Giannis with almost the exact same margin. Giannis 5.2, Harden 3.1. That means total win shares are almost dead even. Giannis 13.2, Harden 13.1. That's nose. Somebody's going to win by a nose. Harden's VORP, the new cool stat on the market. VORP, value over replacement player. If you're a baseball fan, sort of equivalent to WAR, wins above replacement. Harden is 1.6 points higher than Giannis, 8.7 to 7.1 in VORP. For comparison, the next guy behind Giannis is Nikola Jokic. Harden is 1.6 points in front of Giannis in VORP. Giannis is 0.5 in front of Nikola Jokic. The disparity between Harden and Giannis is triple what it is between Jokic and Giannis. That says quite a bit to me. But beyond all the stats, if you're not a stat person, I agree with you sometimes. Just watch the games. There's no one in the NBA, no one even close who carried half the load that Harden has had to carry this year and still has his team on the verge of 50 wins and a top 3 seed in the harder conference. It's not just that he's carrying a load. Look at where they are. It'd be one thing if he was carrying a load on the 6th best team in Detroit. I get it. That's Blake Griffin. His numbers aren't close to it, but he's carrying that size load, right? They're the 6th best team in the East. This is the 3rd best team in the West by record standpoint, 2nd best by eyeball test, no doubt, and he has carried way more of a load than anybody else, and they're on the verge of 50 wins. Like, people don't remember how this team started and the depths he pulled them from. They had to beg a guy who was a catastrophic failure at Wake Forest in Jeff Bezdelic to come back to their bench and fix them on defense. If he hadn't come back, they had the worst defense in the year to start the league. They had no hope. It was just Harden trying to win them games every night, and he kept doing it. They just kept piecing it together. This team had Carmelo Anthony at the beginning of the year. They were playing Michael Carter-Williams real minutes. That guy just got a 10-day from Orlando. They were playing him real minutes. They were desperate for Austin Rivers, a guy the frickin' Suns let walk for nothing. The Suns said no thank you. He's a massive piece for them. This is what Harden has to work with. Daniel House gets sent back to the G League because his 45 days are up, and that really, really hurt them. Do you guys realize that? Daniel House really hurt them, that loss. A guy nobody ever heard of, and most people still haven't, really hurt them because he was starting for them and playing huge minutes. That's what James Harden had to work with. That's what he's dragged to 50 wins this year. He's made Kenneth Faried look halfway like the Kenneth Faried of 2014. And by the way, the Nets let that guy walk for nothing this year too. Another guy just totally let go by a team not as good as the team he's now on. He's played ridiculous minutes. He's carried a crazy load for them. And still, even more so, he's healthy. How? When every single day all you hear is he's going to break down. It's going to happen. He's going to break down. When? LeBron James is resting for load management. James Harden's out here balling. Every single night, had 28 and another win tonight against New Orleans. This guy has to be the MVP. If for no other reason because he got robbed in 2015 and kind of in 2017. Probably definitely in 2017. And he won the players' vote in 2015, Curry's first year. James Harden is the best offensive player in the NBA. It's not fun to watch. It's ugly a lot of times. Late in games, it's a lot of fun to watch because that's just what basketball is late in games anyways. A bunch of the best player going ISO if it's a close game. So tune in for the fourth quarter. James Harden's must-see TV. But seriously, the idea that this guy would lose out on MVP to a dude that people don't have to guard outside the three-point line when you have to guard James Harden if he's sitting on the damn bench is absurd to me. And I understand that Giannis's defensive win shares are the highest in the NBA, and what he does, it can only be compared to Shaq, and that in and of itself is flabbergasting, but it's true. Giannis is a great player. He's first-team All-NBA. He's runner-up MVP. He's going to win an MVP or 4 before it's all said and done. It's going to happen. If he gets a three-point shot, he will change basketball, if he already hasn't. He's amazing. I get it. James Harden's the MVP. And I'm going to harp on it from this point on. I've circled all the way around. I've had different guys. Paul George was right there. He's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year. There's a lot of guys this year who have been worthy. Nobody is even close to James Harden when you talk about load carried and everything else he's done for this team to keep them afloat. Everybody said all year, this is ugly. This won't win a championship. He did it because he had to. He had to. They looked at him and they said, we have nothing else. We're going to put you out there with Austin Rivers, Daniel House, Nene, and player X, usually Gerald Green, or whoever with PJ Tucker. It's been Harden and Tucker, and they've been the only ones. Gordon's been hurt. Chris Paul's been hurt. Capella's been hurt. They've been scrapping guys off the lot. Daniel House is coming back now. Thank God they finally wised up and got Daniel House back in. I don't know why I keep hitting on Daniel House so much. He's actually played pretty well. He's probably going to play his way into a contract. Either way, those guys aren't good. Those guys just aren't that good. Even Giannis had another all-star on his team this year. James Harden didn't. And you could say, oh, well, Chris Paul would have been no, Chris Paul won an all-star last year. No, sir. So I don't know what you mean. James Harden's the MVP, without a doubt. I've said it over and over. I'll say it one more time. James Harden's the MVP. That's all I got for you guys this week. It's a quick one, little 30-minute show for you. I would have hit on Gronkowski, but obviously we're going to let Shay handle that one when he comes back. I've been through it. Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, though. Those guys never won Super Bowls for us. But Shay, this one goes out to you. Pour some out for one's homies. We'll see you guys next week when Shay's back from Vegas. This is the Monday Mashup. I'm Kevin McCann. Follow us on social media at Detroit Podcast, at Kevman_McCann, at Norling Shay. See you guys next week. Thanks.